Welcome back. You're now watching the political segment of the weekend show. Today we'll be talking about the Presidential Election Tribunal. On Wednesday, the 11th of September 2019, the Presidential Election Tribunal gave its final verdict on the petition filed by the People's Democratic Party, PDP, and its presidential candidate, Atiku Abubakar, challenging the victory of President Muhammadu Buhari in the 2019 presidential elections. Joining us today to discuss this topic, we have
a lawyer and a writer, Anthony Ehilebo. Welcome to the weekend show.
Thank you, guys. Good morning, Abuja. Good morning, Nigeria.
Good morning. So, I might add, we invited people from the APC to also discuss this issue, but three of our calls were declined. So we only have Anthony here, who we all know is a member of the People's Democratic Party. So he'll be giving us his perspective on the judgment by PEPT. So talk to me, Anthony. The tribunal ruled against one of Atiku's applications, saying that one's ability to read, write, and communicate in English is seen as being equivalent to school certificate level. What do you think about that?
Well, you know, for me, it's been the consequences of the judgment. I'm a lawyer, so that precludes me from, I know that this is going to the Supreme Court. It's not there now, so maybe we can talk about it as much. But have you seen what people have been doing with their handles on Twitter and Facebook?
Oh, changing their designation.
Doctor,
senior
advocate, and then they put in bracket affidavit. You know, I think I've always looked at the words of judges as words that can be frozen in time. They're going to be there. It's going to be there. It's one of the most captured words ever spoken. Spoken words by judges are revered. They're kept in very nice libraries, and they're there for eternity. People will always refer back to them. So it's the consequence of that action that we must interrogate now and say, okay, so how do you say that it's equivalent because you can speak, read, write, and speak? Then that means that you have a certificate. It's going to go, someone is going to become funny. Someone is going to apply for something, right? And they're going to reject because he didn't present his certificate. And he's going to go to court and cite that law. Because you know, the pronouncements of judges, especially at that kind of level, at appeal court level, it becomes word of law if it's not challenged. And even if it is challenged and it survives at the Supreme Court, it becomes accepted law. And unless the Supreme Court reverses itself on that particular law, it will remain law for as long as that constitution and whatever legal framework guides that country or guides that institution. It will remain that for life. And in eternity.
I'm happy you introduced yourself as a lawyer, yes. Because as you know, the most common saying to us, the layman, is that the law is open to interpretation. So the fact that the law this time wasn't interpreted in the favor of the People's Democratic Party, is that why you're saying this at this point?
Okay, so one of the most common coinages in law that you learn as a lawyer, or you hear that we speak of, is that the law is an ass. An ass in terms of a donkey, and that it can be swayed in whatever direction the person who has the authority to do it. Let me use the words of a friend, and he always used to tell me, in trying to do me, if he's late now, Justice Ashi, he would say, Tony, whatever you feel that I can legally do with my gavel, let me know. You understand? And he was saying it like someone that could do whatever he wanted to do with his gavel. And I mean, what we appeal to the judges is the consequences of these words. I'm not saying this as partisan, I'm saying this as a Nigerian. Because the fabric of our judicial system is the hope people can wrap themselves around. Everybody, look, before I came in, I sat down with someone outside the studio and I just said, let me just ask you, what did you think about the judgment of the appeal court? And this goes in reference to what people say, that the law should, or in applying justice, should be seen that justice is done and justice is seen to be done. So it also talks about the perception of that justice. The perception of justice is so important. The consequences. Look, people are trying to invest in Nigeria. And when they believe that if they invest in Nigeria and they have a problem, and someone has the capacity or maybe just by his persona, can influence the pronouncement of what justice ought to be, then it's a holdback for them.
You know, it's interesting you speak on consequences, because the Supreme Court is the apex court in any country. And so certain precedents could work for or against people or the masses. So for instance, I know, thanks to a previous electoral matter, expert evidence, expert witnesses, their testimony will not stand if they've been paid by someone as a consultant, so unless it's being free. And these are experts who get paid for their services. And then moving forward to recent cases, like with the case of Senator Adeleke, and also with this Presidential Electoral Petition Tribunal, we realized that, and this is more from the lawyers, the main focus has been on technicalities as opposed to the merit of the case itself. And so you can get someone's case being struck out because they didn't file a certain document on time, or because a judge didn't sign attendance, or the focus of the case is intended to strike out the case because the lawyer in charge didn't pay his or her dues. So when we talk about consequences, why is there so much focus on the technicality as opposed to the merit of the case? Same thing with affidavits and the semantics around it. What happens to dealing with the issue being spoken about?
Okay, so let's look at judicial history. Why do we have courts? How did they emerge? It's creations of the British system, where they had the monarchy, and they needed the people to believe that there was a lack of faith in the monarchy dispensing justice. So the king at the time, I think it was Louis or John, I'm not so up to date with who it was, but he decided that he was going to appoint someone that could, and the courts were called courts of equity, I think, at the time, that someone that could dispense justice without having the shackles of political decisions. So people, there was a great time of calm immediately that was done, because there was a lot of agitation, a lot of people trying to rebellions that needed to be quashed, and it cost the crown a lot of money. And they felt, okay, so let's settle this once and give people an alternative that they can get justice from. That's a bit of legal.
Which is the court.
Yes, which is the courts. Now, the whole scenario around this particular presidential election petition, and I heard a lot of people say, well, this shouldn't have gone to court. We all know, these judges all watched on TV as the election went on, the things that happened during the election, the use of military force. And don't forget that this particular place where we sought justice, which is the appeal court, is the same court that restrained the military in another judgment from ever participating in our elections. And here you are, you're presented with an issue that says, the military intervened. And I didn't really sit down to watch it because it was about 9 hours or so, but the little excerpts I got, especially the part where it said it is not going to investigate the actions of security men during the election. Now, in answering the question that, was this election free and fair, to a substantial extent, to say that there was substantial compliance with the law in terms of conducting elections, we all saw it on TV. Everybody that is a Nigerian knows that you cannot say that the election was free and fair. Let me tell you something.
Well,
if you juxtapose that election,
yes,
and this is talking about the integrity of those that conducted this election, yes, with what is happening in the UK, I think the argument has never been once that the margin between the Brexit and those that did not want to leave was just 4%, between 52 and 48%. No one, not even those that sought to remain, have questioned the integrity of that poll. But I'll tell you something.
Yeah.
Every Nigerian you ask today will tell you the integrity of that poll is left to question.
But Tony, this is why I want to talk about the plaintiffs failed to bring in witnesses to support most of these claims. And so, for instance, there was the case of Dekina local government, Kogi State, yes, where you say elections in hold. Ideally, even as a layman, you're meant to bring your agents, you're meant to bring witnesses. There was a failure to present substantial evidence, especially with witnesses in this case. And so would you blame the courts based on, should I say, lack of preparedness or the absence of the right witnesses?
Okay, I think one has to look at the length and breadth of Nigeria and the time you're given to prosecute your case. Don't forget do not forget that INEC, until the last day of the PDP presenting its case, did not bring the evidences requested until the court, until the lawyers for the Atiku PDP had to apply to the courts to ask INEC to bring election materials to the courts, which they came and dumped about 1 million copies on the courts on the last day of PDP's case. So I'm sure that PDP had it planned with the results to interview or question the agents that they had used that. But without those results that INEC would give you, would you be able to question, say, a result from the Kenya local government that is not certified? The only certified copies were coming from INEC. So I'd say this, that yes, we must say that somehow we want to look at the prosecution of the case, but I think the drafters of the law also bore into consideration the time which a government spends, which is 4 years. And if you spend 3-4 years out of that litigating a matter, then you've lost the substance of that matter, which is the time which you ought to use to govern your people. So I would say yes, you can look at the technicalities of the matter, like you said, and as the judges have tried to do in this instance. But also, what is that which you seek to cure, that someone has come to court and asked you to dispense justice? Do you feel justice has been dispensed? Do you think that the average Nigerian working on, you see joy on the faces of Nigeria?
Some would say yes, some would say yes, some would say no. But I would like to open up the phone lines. The number to call is 081-044-04382. That's 081-044-04382. Call us to share your opinion on this conversation. Anthony, I have to ask again. During my interview on my other program with Segun Shomi, the spokesman of the Atiku Abubakar presidential campaign, he mentioned certain key phrases that I believe the PDP is threading towards in its case that is about to submit in the Supreme Court. He talked about forum shopping. Can you explain to us what forum shopping means and how this presented at the Supreme Court might be able to help the case by Atiku Abubakar?
Okay, so I didn't watch the interview, so I probably will not get the line of thoughts that Segun told on that particular issue. But it would seem to me that the presentation of the justices of the appeal court was much better than the lawyers of both Atiku and the APC in terms of creating a scenario which, in fact, all the loopholes that the other side had. Remember, these guys did not go further in their cases. The Buhari team only called about 7 witnesses, after which some of them even helped the case of the PDP when General Tafa was called. He said there was no such thing as him handing his certificate to the military board. You know, you see, the good thing about this trial was that stations like AIT and channels and whatnot.
Sorry, we have a call.
It was broadcast live.
1 second. Your name and where are you calling from, please? Okay. Where are you calling from?
I'm calling from Oka, Anambra State.
Okay. What's your contribution to the conversation?
Oka, Anambra State.
Awesome. What's your contribution to the conversation?
My contribution is that I believe that the verdict of the tribunal wasn't based on facts and merit.
Okay.
They decided to just give the poll to President Mohamed Buhari because every common Nigerian today believe that that election was rigged. The hope of a common man is no longer the law courts. Based on the issue of the certificate saga, they disappointed Nigerians on that aspect. That judgment they passed that Wednesday has a long effect later in Nigerian education system. Because someone can grow up one day, go and take swear affidavits, they have PhD in this, PhD in that. If you ask where is the proof, he says certificate was bumped some time ago and you couldn't find it anymore.
Okay. I would like to first of all state that the opinions shared by the callers do not represent the views of the people of the weekend show or the sister station AIT. Your name and where are you calling from, please? Yes, your name and where are you calling from? Hello? Okay, we're having a little bit of technical difficulties. Your name and where are you calling from? All right, so do you want to respond to that? It seems like he shares the same sentiments that you've
especially
expressed.
about affidavit, and which is true. Anybody can go and pay the amount of money. It's below 5,000 naira, about 1,000 thereabout, and say, "Oh, my birth certificate is missing because I need to get an international passport." You swear an affidavit and you get it. So this now comes to the judicial process entirely needing some type of restructuring, because anybody can do this, and Nigerians are learning, which means criminal minds will even learn to perpetrate more crimes using such loopholes.
Well, I don't think it's the judicial process that needs a review. I think it's our laws. It's the legal frameworks that we operate within the Constitution, the Electoral Act, for instance, what it requires. So you're now also looking, does this also affect the Civil Service Act? I mean, for employment of people, does an affidavit suffice? Or do you need someone to go and get his certificate and really show you that he attended these schools and he acquired this? The problem we have now is that people who have worked hard to get these certificates or get these results, what are you telling them? What is the message you are sending to them? That it doesn't matter, that anybody can, no one should be above the law.
Yes, sorry, we have a caller. Your name and where are you calling from?
Yes, my name is Frank, Mr. Frank. I'm calling from Abuja here.
Okay, what's your contribution to the conversation?
Just like the lawyer in the studio have said, I think me, from my own perspective, it's like we are losing the last hope of the common man, which is the judiciary. It is now who has who goes to yam and has the knife over in case. Now it's, because I remember that Adeleke was prosecuted for certificate, and our court now says that it does not have to present a certificate, just as an affidavit. And I remember that Kenya Joshua was also removed from office because she presented the fake NYC exemption certificate. And we have a case who presented another certificate in 2015 and a different one in 2019. On both times, he swore on both sides, on both times. And now the court says you can now have an affidavit. It doesn't matter whether you really own the certificate or not. I mean, it is so disheartening that there's nothing we can do. Whatever they like, let them do. We'll wait for another 4 days, and then I know that the same thing will happen at the Supreme Court. The only difference may be it might not be unanimous decision. You might have 1 or 2 different judges, but it is going to be the same thing. So we are building up for the next hardship of 4 years of hardship. Thank you, and God bless you.
Thank you for sharing your thoughts and opinion, Mr. Frank. Hello?
Hello?
Yes, your name and where are you calling from? Can you please turn down your TV set?
Yeah, my name is Paul. Hello, can you hear me?
I can hear you, but you need to turn down your TV to continue this conversation. What's your name and where are you calling from?
Yeah, my name is Paul Olugoje.
Okay. Where are you calling from?
From Lagos.
Okay. What's your contribution?
Yeah, my contribution is this. I think first and foremost, I don't know if your guests are lawyers, and if they are, I would prefer them to be enlightening us on the legal perspective. Let us not just tell people what they want to hear. Now, what we heard from the court is that.
Go ahead. Hello? Oh, I'm so sorry we missed that call. But let's take one more call. All right, let's take one more call then, Anthony. I'm so glad you're a lawyer, and I'm sure you're able to put aside your partisan hat and speak as a lawyer. So most Nigerians want to know, what is really the legal perspective of this? What are the legal implications of this? So we'd like you to speak about that after we take this last call. Your name and where are you calling from? Yes, you have to turn down your TV set. What's your name and where are you calling from, please?
Hello?
All right, so we're just going to leave that there.
Yeah.
Anthony.
Well, the law is not inhuman. The law has the facts of the case and the technicalities of the case, right? You referred to the Oshun case, and everyone, I mean, when the matter was brought up when the Chief Justice was being confirmed in the Senate, we saw that there was hardly an explanation that could be given to that suffices, or that would suffice for that kind of action. When you see a judiciary that has been harassed, where it's a Supreme Court justice is being picked up in the middle of that, no conviction to date, and a Chief Justice unceremoniously, 2-3 weeks to an election, unceremoniously removed immediately. What do you think the perception of those who are looking on from outside is about the judiciary? As a lawyer, I make bold to say that there are grounds which this appeal court decision can be overturned, but of course, the judges only avert their minds to where they want to avert their mind to in the matter. And don't forget that at the Supreme Court, you're not just looking at merely the facts of a matter, you're also going to be looking at public interest, public policy. So these decisions are given, it is a known fact across the world, even in America, when Supreme Court justices are being picked, they are picked because of possibly their leanings and where, don't forget the Wade versus Roe issue. Until today, it's
which
never...
is legal.
Yes, which has not... So to your person who just called, the law is not as simple as you see it. It involves a lot of things. It also involves the judiciary becoming aware. And as part of the reforms, we'll be looking at reforms with the Electoral Act being signed, which now makes it mandatory for electronic transmission of results and all of that. This is where we expect, and don't forget that these same parties in this matter refused to sign the Electoral Act and said he was waiting for the next government. We expect that today and now he should begin to sign the Electoral Act, because if he wants the best for Nigeria, we must restore the sanctity of the institutions that guarantee our democracy, which is the Independent National Electoral Commission, which honestly, there is, from my opinion, my perspective, and the people I've spoken to, there is a perception that it needs to cure itself of. It really needs to become transparent. And of course, we have reports from several non-governmental international agencies which have spoken vastly and deeply as to the matters that affected our recent general election, which is in the courts right now, which massive violence across the nation, electoral numbers not tallying up, and you see, maybe I want to even answer the question of whether there was forum shopping. A lot of lawyers that I spoke to said the justices of the appeal court descended into the arena, in their opinion. But this is just opinion. It's not a verdict. It's an opinion. And people are free to express that opinion, because judicial actions are subject, in the end, to public review. And how we see it should tell them that their next actions should make us come back to that belief. Because you see, if you kill faith in a system, less people will patronize the system. And then, when people say, where there's no law, the society will descend into a Hobbesian nature. It's because when people no longer believe that judiciary will give them justice, you will hear of jungle justice. That's why you hear of police force special units committing murder. It's not because some of these actions they take, they actually feel that if we send this person to court, a judge will release him. I have spoken to intelligence operatives who say they go to a man's house, go into his ceiling, and they see an AK-47 which costs 500,000. They cannot even find a decent bathroom slippers in that man's house. And they take him to the police station, which they should do. And they call back to find out update on the case, and they say somebody has called, release him, he's our boy. It happens in this country.
Unfortunately, we don't have enough time to keep on going, but thank you so much for coming on today's
No
program. I wish you touched more on the forum shopping, because most Nigerians want to know how this actually happened, how this judgment came about. And to watch this episode and to watch previous episodes, you can visit our website, www.weekendshowng.com. Don't forget to follow us on social media at weekendshowng on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you next week.